Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, friends, family from all over the Western Hemisphere and throughout the world. It's Sunday morning at 10 o'clock in Washington, and we're here to launch the IAED webinar, which is the final session of a 9-session incredible series that's taken place over the last 3 days. So welcome to our session. We guarantee it'll be insightful and helpful on some critical topics dealing with the economy and how we can make a difference in the world. My name is Tom McDevitt. I serve as chairman of the Washington Times and of H.J. Magnolia Global Foundation, and I'm honored to help support the growth of IAED around the world. I want to say just a word about it. The association was launched in February of this year at the World Summit 2020 in Seoul, Korea. We had over 6,000 delegates and a conference like this of 500 experts. And some of the speakers that were there are going to be with you this morning. It was at the behest of Dr. Hak Ja-han Moon that we do this, focused on the values of interdependence, mutual prosperity, and interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal values. We had people like Jim Rogers, the famous investor from Singapore, and Neil Bush, our good friend who runs the Points of Light Foundation, the son of President George H.W. Bush, and also William Imeke, a famous professor of social value investing from Columbia University. IAED is guided by the belief that every person deserves a life of dignity. We seek to promote and facilitate projects and professional development that help reduce the burden of poverty in communities that are underprivileged. It's also our belief that business leaders have the responsibility to work on projects that make the world safer and more secure. And we believe it's their duty to help contribute to economic development, to help establish world peace and equality for all. That's why we're so proud to be involved in this new organization that we want to invite you to participate in, because our philosophy is based on a world that sees things as one family under God. Ultimately, it's by this outlook that we want to produce long-term mutual prosperity, sustainable, and even contribute to world peace. That's why I'm so excited to have the panelists with us today. Our first speaker comes from Costa Rica. His name is Jhon Fonseca. He's the global expert in strategic and change management, customs, trade facilitation, and foreign trade. Jhon is the co-founder and CEO of several companies and a consultant on customs and international trade with the World Bank. He was the Vice Minister of Foreign Trade in Costa Rica and President of the Trade Facilitation National Council. He comes to us today from his home in Costa Rica, where we want to go next. Mr. Fonseca, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Thomas, and you are more than welcome to come to Costa Rica, and I hope that sometime we will have the joy to have you here. So thank you for the opportunity to the UPF, and well, I hope that my speech will be useful for the audience. When I was preparing these words for this presentation, I was kind of overwhelmed with the time I have to versus all the things I want to say about the new models, paradigms, and needs for change to adapt to the new economy. I thought in talking about well-being economies, donut economy, and others that I believe are going in the right direction. But at the end of my reflection and knowing how uncertain the future is, I decided to share with you some advices that I learned with my friends from X-Shift and that I believe will be very useful for all of us in our journey to the new normal. What we know for sure is that the things are going to be different and that we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking that we use when we create them. This is from Albert Einstein, and I guess this guy knows a little bit. So then if we know that for sure, then to change what we do, we first must change how we think. And the old ways are becoming obsolete. In this time of transformation, some of our most cherished assumptions and beliefs are becoming inaccurate. And we have a new reality, and to create a new model of value creation, what we need, we first need to unlearn obsolete ways of thinking and update our mental models to success in a digital world. It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. This is attributed to Mark Twain. And well, I believe in we think that learning as adding to what we already know, but sometimes what we already know gets in the way of learning something new. We need to learn in a different way. We need to change our way of thinking. In my view, this capability, it's a must for the new leadership. I say new because only the ones that can adapt to this new reality are going to be able to keep leading. Thanks to the digital technology, business leaders need new tools, new skills, and most importantly, new thinking. This is a major challenge. Our brains are used to an incremental world, but now things are changing in an exponential way. Imagine someone taking 30 steps. These are incremental steps of about 2 feet each. You have a pretty good sense that it's about the length of a very large room. Now imagine someone taking 30 exponential steps, meaning each step's double in length from the one before. How far will that be? Well, basically, it turns out it's nearly the distance to the moon. And that's the way the world is changing at this point. Digital technology is making our world exponential, and that's for sure. If we can agree on that, here are some advices that I believe can be very useful. Exponential projects progress along a different growth curve than incremental ones. Learn how to shift your organization's thinking around vision, expectations, metrics, and resources. That's a must. Now on, the customers are no longer just customers. They are co-creators. It is not enough for them to feel good about your purpose. They want it to be their purpose too. Your purpose needs to be shared. You can transform audiences into co-creators by creating a powerful story based on shared purpose. The narrative is another one that is very important. A narrative is more than just a messaging for marketing. By articulating your shared purpose, it serves as a North Star that organization and stakeholders can all align on. Alignment on shared purpose, it's the key to unleash powerful networks and effects across your entire ecosystem of stakeholders. Traditional metrics do not work anymore to measure progress towards your shared purpose. We are all familiar with profit metrics, the measures that tell you whether you are track on increased growth or efficiency. But how do you know if you are in the track of fulfilling your purpose as an organization? Some companies measure impact like environmental footprint or charitable activities. These are important and valuable, but they measure your purpose for and not your purpose with what you need to do. Understand what is the thread that ties together your past and the future and makes you unique. What is that you have always been and always will be. The more you figure out what stays the same, the better you will be able to adapt as things change around you. The source of your authenticity is very important. Company DNA is who you are always being, and what you inspire in others. Combine the vision of your purpose with the authenticity of your DNA to form a unique source of differentiation. When your story starts to with your product, everything is about what you do for others. It's like a full service restaurant. Just show up, enjoy the meal, and pay the bill. But when your narrative starts with your purpose, things need to be more reciprocal and multidimensional. Everyone has something to contribute with. It's more like a potluck, with everyone bringing a different dish to the table. A potluck doesn't work.
Mr. Fonseca, well,
Yeah.
We've got one more minute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just to finalize, I think we need to start to move from transactions to relationships, to audiences to community, from customer to co-creators, from loyalty to gratitude. And the principles that we use to do that are going to be crucial in the new economy. With the traditional companies put out messages of and products, today most successful brands pull customers in. So my advice will be just to try to move to a new model, a new economy where principles, where purpose, and where the integrity of what we are doing is going to be in the center of our business. Thank you very much, Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Fonseca. I wish we could listen to you for a couple of hours, and we must have you back to speak. I wanted to show you, this is the cover of Harvard Business Review, their special section in this spring, How to Lead with Purpose. That theme is all over business literature. That's why it's so exciting with IAED, because the whole philosophy of ID is grounded in that rich sense of purpose and authenticity. Brilliant comments, and thank you. Sorry we had to keep it a little short. Our next speaker, for all those who are watching, and we have almost 1,000 people watching the show right now, and we welcome you to our virtual conference, is Mrs. Nicole Verdugo. She has extensive backgrounds in both public and private sectors. She's been very influential in Chile and Latin America, including several initiatives on the empowerment of women in the business world, along with having extensive experience with trade agreements and coordinating for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in her home country of Chile, concerning gender and trade objectives for the 21 APEC countries. She's currently the executive director of the Chamber of Women and Business in Chile. Madam Executive Director, the floor is yours.
Muchas gracias, Thomas.
Muchas gracias,
En primer lugar,
don
quiero
Tomás.
agradecer la invitación de
Quiero
la
agradecer
UPF,
a
y en
la
particular a la
UPF
International
invitation and the
Association
particular
of
Association
Economic
Economic of
Development,
Development
IAED, por la invitación de poder
for the invitation of
participar
participating in this extraordinary event, the
de la
webinar,
Conferencia
the International
de
Conference
Liderazgo
of
para las
Leadership for the Americas,
y en especial
especially
para
to
participar
take part in
en
this
esta
session
sesión
of finding
de encontrar
opportunities and
oportunidades
hope
y esperanza
for
en el
a moment
momento
in
de crisis
crisis,
global, el papel
the
del
paper
liderazgo
of
empresarial. Nos
business
encontramos
people.
en plena
We
pandemia
are in the
y como
middle
han
of a
comentado
pandemic.
casi todos
As
los
you have
líderes
all
en las
known, the
conferencias
leaders of this
anteriores,
conference previously,
este ha sido un
this has
momento de
been
mucha
adverse in
incertidumbre y
uncertainty
desconcierto.
and
La pandemia, el
the
aislamiento
pandemic
social y como
and
consecuencia de esto, la crisis económica
social
nos ha
separation, the
enfrentado a uno de los
consequence of this
momentos más
crisis
complejos de la
has
historia de la
faces us the
humanidad.
greatest moment in the
Todavía
history of
es pronto para
humankind.
evaluar el
Today
real
is
impacto
too
de la
soon to
pandemia
make
y
a
la crisis
real
económica
evaluation
tendrá
of this
como
pandemic and
resultado para las
in the
empresas y
impact in
los
the economical
emprendimientos.
crisis
Pero los
in
resultados
our
económicos recientes
entrepreneurs.
pueden
But the
mostrar una
results
fuerte
are
contracción de las
showing us a
economías
contraction
mundiales,
of economies,
la
world
pérdida
community,
sostenida de empleo,
the loss
la
of
caída de las
employment,
bolsas, y entre
fall of
muchos otros escenarios adversos, el cierre
the
de muchas
markets
empresas.
and
Y
many
de acuerdo a
closing of
varios estudios, se
enterprises
señala que las
and
economías
companies.
emergentes como las
And
latinoamericanas serán las
and
más
if you look at
afectadas.
the American
Esta
Latin
tormenta
America, we are the most
perfecta puede
affected
ser
ones.
enfrentada de
These
diferentes
storms
formas,
can be
además de los esfuerzos
faces
de
in different
diferentes
ways.
gobiernos, las políticas
As
públicas y monetarias.
following
Tenemos
the
que sumar el
public
espíritu
policies
empresarial del sector
and
privado, que debe
monetary
impulsar la
policies.
reactivación
We
de
have
las
to
empresas
spirit to
hacia la
reactivate
nueva
the
era de la
economic to the
economía
new
colaborativa,
reactivation,
en donde
where
los
we have
valores,
a
las personas
collaborative economic
estén en
and
el
the
centro
people
de los negocios.
and the values
Una
are at the
mirada en
center
donde los
of the
negocios
business.
estén al
When we
servicio
look
de
at
la
the
sociedad
business
y donde
for
podamos a través de
extended
la
to the service of
tecnología y la
society, and
digitalización
where we can
entregar
have
nuevas
do
herramientas
it
para
of
el desarrollo
technology and
inclusivo y
give it
sostenible.
digital technology
Una
and
de
give
las
them new
grandes
tools
verdades de la
for the
crisis y con
development and
cada una vienen
inclusiveness.
también
One
grandes
of the great
aprendizajes.
truths
Las
of the
crisis son
crisis is that
verdaderas
each one of
oportunidades
us
para
has
los negocios
big learning. The crises are going strongly with the business, but not all of it finding a room to rebuild their entrepreneurs with new purposes. The situation and the working from home and the need of closing the budget is making us to be more aware of employment of new budgets and for new companies. The working from home is allowing the people to have a new time for stay by themselves and their families, also not only but also in their houses. This changes the way we can reach shape the work, and we can find in the new ways to invest the human resources. These changes are asking us to become more efficient and have more kind of family entrepreneurs and companies after the pandemic. We have to have more communication and more creative to answer to this challenge that we are coming in the middle of this crisis. Times are difficult for us, and they are not allowing us to learn easy to become more efficient. There are new ways to have opportunities for companies orientated to training and learning. Oh, today we have to consider new economies with soft abilities, new purposes, and new potential to build new buildings, new companies related to new models, communitary models, and associative models. We need to create new products, new customers. We have to put the digital era with the products and services we offer. New marketing, conquering new markets, new rooms for new companies, and new opportunities to be part of the reaching new companies and multiply them. We have to have a new relation with the clients and customers. So we have to support them to generate new ways to communication and make them find the process of living for the new companies. These companies need to put at the center the purpose of in the customer of people, considering the challenges that we have to face with the inequalities and the spaces created, social spaces that are created, social gaps that are created in our countries affected by the pandemic. We have to be careful that we have to suffer many changes, and we are probably looking at them when we come back to the new normality. One of the features we see in the characteristic of post-confinement will be the orientation of saving and low prices. The people will look for a new security in their way to spend the money. So we are looking for things related to the impact we are facing. All crises are facing a risk, but all time is also an opportunity. We believe this is our case today. The pandemic is showing us clearly a new philosophy to apply to the new leadership. The companies need to find new rooms to feedback and generate new teams of work to allow them to act in a new, more efficient way, generating new talents, knowing more the people and building more teamwork groups. The leadership in the post-pandemic needs to be prepared for serving the organization and create conditions where all of them take the potential to the maximum level. And for that, require a new show and taking measures of humility and experience. We need to widen the distances to talk with the teamwork and share the challenge that we are having as company and committed to our collaborators. We are, of course, we are weak, but we can be inspired to become better leaders. These circumstances are allowing us to redefine and reaffirm our mission as company. Why are we here? Why is our role in the society? And what direction are we going? What are we going to define we are going to redefine our priorities. The communication with different companies, the empathy and the motivation, transmission of energy, knowing to listen and knowing to influence and respond to the social corporative, the decisions and sensibility, cultural sensibility, the inclusive models and the respect of the environment. We need to say the elements and define a new effective leadership to the people and to the teamwork and to the companies, taking more priority decisive to the facing the future, the close and the far future. Today, the leader, we need to have new way to different words in this world we are living today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Verdugo. Just insightful comments and focused especially on the big learning that has to take place in the change. I feel like we are sitting in the top postgraduate seminar with some of the best faculty of the top business schools in the world right here. Our next guest, our next speaker, it comes from Washington, D.C., Mr. Aaron Monego. He has over 20 years of experience representing both international governments and private sector companies throughout Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, and Asia. He's worked on economic diplomacy for the U.S. Department of Commerce, the U.S. Department of State, and the U.S. Department of Energy. Aaron is the co-founder of National Infrastructure Investment Alliance, which is a coalition of government, civil society, and private sector interests formed to work on the U.S. Opportunity Zone Initiative, which has been burgeoning in America over the past several years. It's a pleasure to welcome our colleague and friend, Mr. Aaron Monego. Mr. Monego, you have the floor, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Tom, Mr. McDevitt, Dr. Jenkins, thank you both so much for having me here this morning to engage in this most timely discussion. Also would like to give a special thanks if you're out there watching and listening to Reverend Oliver for always having me engaged in the things that the international IAED is doing, UPF is doing. So thank you very much. I've structured my comments this morning on finding the silver linings during a time of global and economic downturn and uncertainty. I've shared more of my structured comments, which should be available to you, but I thought I would use my time now as more of a discussion, and that would prove a lot more productive, especially anticipating Q&A. So as I said, I wanted to focus my comments on finding the silver linings during a time of global economic downturn and uncertainty. So what have myself and the experts at my firm been focusing on to help generate hope and certainty to our clients and the communities that we service? Well, we focused on two things primarily. One, our sovereign wealth funds and strategic investment funds, and the second topic that we've focused on is hunger and food deserts. So for some in the audience, you may ask the question, so what exactly are sovereign wealth and strategic investment funds, and what does that have to do with finding economic silver linings during a time of global economic downturn and uncertainty? Well, these sovereign wealth funds and strategic investment funds are essentially investment tools that are set up by sovereign governments and nations, mostly to be utilized externally. What we have been in a position to do at our firm, GPS and Potomac International Partners, is to work with these governments to find market solutions for them here in the United states for them to utilize those foreign investment tools that they have. In particular, I want to give you a real example of a case study that we're working on right now is in Ghana with the Ashanti Kingdom. They have most recently established a multi-billion-dollar sovereign wealth and strategic investment fund, and we've been able to help them look at what here in the United States, what we call opportunity zones. And these opportunity zones here in the United States are especially carved out zones by the Department of Treasury that focus on economically challenged areas here in the United States. And essentially by investing in these opportunity zones, it allows investors to take their capital gains tax, which would normally, if they utilize them outside of purchasing real estate and things of that nature, they would be taxed at a considerable rate. But by taking their capital gains and putting them into these opportunity zones in these impoverished and historically underserved areas, they're actually able to reap tax benefits for working in these zones. So what we've been able to do is to marry this foreign direct investment with local investors and focus in on helping these underserved and economically challenged regions here within the United States. In particular, we focus our attention on structuring public-private partnerships with these funds. So essentially, what that means for us is we don't just take private projects. We look to take projects that governments here, municipalities, state government here in the United States would look to do. Sometimes these projects are put on the stall because they may not have the funding that they thought they would have had to complete the project. So we bring this foreign direct investment in to marry with these state and municipal projects. It could be light rail projects. It could be bridge projects, deep water port projects, small regional airports and things of that nature. And so that's what we've been working on, and we have found that to be well received, especially now because with all of the economic uncertainty that's come in, many of the states and municipalities here in the United States have run into shortcomings, economic shortcomings. So having these structured public-private partnerships have been a godsend to most of them, because it certainly helps with the creation of jobs, stabilizing job loss, and bringing a necessary economic infusion into their various economies. I think we all know that that access to capital, for the most part, is always an ongoing issue. But in the second part of my comment, when I mentioned about what we were looking at, now the access to food, even here in the United States, has become a growing concern. Especially with the unanticipated interruption to supply chains here in the United States. I think according to the U.S. Census, out of the thousands of census tracts that we have here in the United States, that over 300 of them have been designated as food deserts, essentially meaning within a 2 to 5 mile radius here in the United States, people don't have ready access to food sources, meaning supermarkets, fresh food stores, things of that nature. So we've been working with several NGOs, nonprofit organizations, to again take some of this foreign direct investment and through these via these sovereign wealth funds, and marry them to these NGOs that are working on providing sustainable, reliable, replicable, and scalable access to these communities of want with respect to food. And I tell you, according to the UN Global Food Alliance, as well as the U.S. Department of Agriculture here in the United States, they anticipate for the remainder of 2020 that millions of people are going hungry, don't have access to food. So what do you do to alleviate that? What do you do to step in?
Mr. Monego, I'm sorry to interrupt.
And make sure that access things.
We're going to have to finish up here.
Sure. I'll just close. I'll just.
Go ahead, Aaron. Please go ahead. Make your final comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just close by this. The scriptures ask us, what have you done with you share your lights and talents with the world? Me, my colleagues, we certainly prefer the latter, to share our talents and our light with the world, and we are doing that to help find these silver linings again during a time of global and economic downturn and uncertainty.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Monego. Like everyone, I wish we could do a whole seminar on the opportunity zones and the incredible background that you have. And I would like to invite you and all of our panelists, once we finish with our final speaker, we'll do a couple of questions. I think we'll have time, but I'd like each of you to think about, given your experience and background, what would you recommend for IAED and how we can develop what we can do to make a difference? Thank you, Aaron, for that exceptional presentation and for your work. Our next speaker is Mrs. Lillian Skiavo. Mrs. Schiavo is currently the president of the Brazilian Organization of Women Entrepreneurs and a representative of Brazil at the Convergence of Women Entrepreneurs of the Mercosur. She has a degree in hospital administration and previously served as director of hospital and group medicine in the Union of Hospitals in the state of Sao Paulo. She's a scholar at the Academy of Science, Arts, and Letters of Sao Paulo. We're absolutely delighted to have you with us today, all the way from Brazil, and we invite you to take the floor, Mrs. Schiavo. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to start my words by showing my deepest gratitude to Dr. Moon, the Mother of Peace, for the Rally of Hope held last month, and for her tireless work in building a culture of peace, embracing all humankind. I also want to thank UPF International, in the person of its president, Dr. Thomas Walsh, for providing us with a golden opportunity to be together, sharing ideas, plans, visions in favor of building a better society for us and especially for the future generations. This is the session of the International Association for Peace and Economic Development, whose theme is Finding Opportunity and Hope in a Time of Global Crisis, the role of business leadership. One could ask, what does economics have to do with peace? Or what do humans have to do with the economy and peace? And I would reply that we, humans, are all about economics and peace. My ancestors are Japanese, and everyone knows the historically prevailing male culture of Japan. I believe that humanity is evolving, and the changing mentality is a form of evolution. Until very recently, humans were not entitled to vote, could not drive a car, and couldn't lead a company. The evolution of the vision of life and society is changing the role of human and their social participation is becoming increasingly relevant. I'm Brazilian. I live in a country where the problems are as big as the country's dimension. In this pandemic, in the number of infected and deaths, we occupy the second place. When we first heard the words, stay at home, we imagined that in 2 weeks everything would be resolved and we would be back to normal. But we couldn't be more wrong. During these months, we have seen lives being cut short, families destroyed, and companies going bankrupt. I'm not talking about numbers anymore. I'm talking about people, broken dreams, and pain. The pandemic opened up an even deeper gap of social inequality in Brazil, as well as globally, and made us react. As a woman, and as a mother, and as an entrepreneur, I'm here today to talk about opportunity and hope. That's what the world needs right now. The United Nations highlighted solidarity actions in Brazil. With social isolation, we saw citizens and companies mobilizing themselves as a support network, executing initiatives to distribute food and cleaning and hygiene products to the neediest. Banks mobilized to create funds to build hospitals and buy medical equipment. Some companies that were closed reopened their doors to manufacture items such as masks, aprons, alcohol gel, and products for donations. Restaurants with stocks of perishable food prepared meals for homeless people. I represent an organization of human entrepreneurs, and we created a group to promote products and services, encouraging local trade. The borders of Brazil were closed, and we received the requests for help from immigrants. The result was amazing. We created business opportunities through an international webinar with the participation of consulates and embassies. We started a dialogue with neighboring countries, and export and import opportunities arose. It was impressive to see the spirit of this business human, where before there was desolation, now hope appeared. We started to drink together. Imagine the day when we would return to travel on missions to fairs and congresses, strengthening our commercial and friendship ties. The government distributed emergency aid that was used by the population mainly to buy food. We cleaned in our closets and donated clothes and shoes to the neediest. We learned to live with less, and we found out that this is possible. Confinement left us lighter and free from the superfluous. We were able to reflect on what is really important. We realize how much it is worth living with family and friends, the value of a hug and a face-to-face conversation. We have become resilient, reinventing our lives and our companies, looking towards the planet, towards sustainability, towards conscious consumption. We started to think about the collective instead of the individual, less me and more us. We understand that we need to walk hand in hand to survive. In order to keep on working, we had to learn to use technological tools which connect us. The distance has disappeared, and today I can connect just as easily with other parts of Brazil and abroad. The role of leaders in this pandemic was to be an example of solidarity and empathy. We understand that we are spiritual beings living a human experience, and we will win this war with the most powerful weapons in the world: faith, love, compassion, and creativity. Once again, I thank you for the opportunity to be part of this webinar, and I thank UPF for its vision of hope. I understand that together, with solidarity and trust, we will overcome this crisis and leave a constructive legacy for future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Mrs. Schiavo. A brilliant presentation. I love what you said there. This is a time when it has to be less of me and more of us. You know, it reminds me, Dr. Sun Myung Moon is celebrating his 100th year anniversary from the time he was born, passed away, of course, in 2012. But he liked to say that this is an age of women leadership. And that's what's so inspiring about Dr. Hajj Moon. And I am so thrilled, and I'm sure our audience is, with such outstanding women leaders, experts here that can help guide this. So thank you very, very much. And for all of our listeners, we will have all the texts of our speakers available. We'll make that available through UPF and through IAED. Well, we come to our last speaker. In baseball, it's called the cleanup hitter. And she is certainly up to this task. Mrs. Audra Hajj is the CEO of the Angel Investors Network. She is, they are a facilitator in launching and reconstructing over 10,000 companies since 1997. And her team has raised over $380 million, brought 71 companies public with her team. And they build better businesses for investors to invest in. They actually help develop businesses so investors are attracted. She is an outstanding leader together with her husband. They were with us in Korea. And we're delighted that she's part of our leadership team in America with the IAED network. So with no further ado, our final speaker, Mrs. Audra Hajj, she'll be using a PowerPoint and give you a call to action at the end of this. Audra, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Tom. I am just overjoyed. What incredible speakers that we've had the opportunity to share our Sunday morning with. And for some of you, it's not Sunday. You've started your week off with this breath, this feeling of hope. And we really hope that that is what you take away from this. And I wanted to, first of all, one of the things I haven't heard is happy anniversary. So UPF is celebrating our 15 years as being an organization, and it is just so exciting. So I wanted to talk a little bit, Tom did a fantastic introduction. I'm not going to go into a lot of these details, but just as some highlights, I am the CEO of Angel Investors Network, and my journey, just like each and every one of you, our journeys are unique. I went to 32 foster homes by the time I was 10, and it was the most incredible opportunity to really take full ownership and responsibility and know that every decision I make, I have to live with. I didn't have the opportunity to blame it on the economy or my parents or where I grew up, where I went to school. I had the opportunity to stand firm in every single decision, which really created my path of impact. And that path was serving businesses and creating legacies. Such a phenomenal opportunity to become that ambassador of change. And as you guys can imagine, 32 different foster homes, I had to change, I had to adapt, but I had to stay firm and authentic in who I was and the gifts that I was given as an individual. I now have over 300 employees worldwide. We have offices globally, 3 in the United States, 4 abroad, but most importantly is what we do as a company. You know, we started in 1997 and we've launched and reorganized now over 10,000 businesses. We've taken many of those public, as a matter of fact, over 100 of them. We've invested directly over $380 million and created one of the most advanced due diligence systems known to man. But most importantly, we reduce the risk of business failure. And we do that through launching, building, and scaling businesses. Now I want to stop for a second. I don't do this slide to impress you. I do it to impress upon you that right here on this glorious day, there's nowhere else that I would want to be than right here with the IAED and these amazing speakers and all of you who are attending. So I love this. Tony Robbins said, every problem is a gift. Without problems, we could not grow. Well, we don't have to talk about the problems, but I am so blessed and excited to see the growth everywhere we turn. But I also want to remind each and every one of you that there is historical proof that it's possible to succeed in these hard times. So let's talk about some of the products you see every single day. Let's talk about Heinz. So did you know that he opened in 1869, but then bankrupted in 1875? He restarted and created the Heinz Company from ashes. And here's something super cool that you may or may not know is, of course, we all know the Heinz bottle, and he sold those products in a glass bottle. But as many of you have probably experienced in business, there was this time where the competitors tried to confuse the marketplace. And they went out and started putting their products in similar looking bottles. So he went out and he bought every single bottle that he could possibly find. He stored them, and what he couldn't store, he put on a barge. He took it out and he sank that barge. And that's where the term comes from, sinking the competition. Now, here's something that you may or may not know as well. He was one of the first people to have electricity in his factory. And it was not the motor industry. It was actually him who had the very first assembly line. Now let's talk about my favorite topic as a woman. I love chocolate. But did you know that Hershey's, he had a 4th grade education, and he failed 3 times before success. Originally, he was actually in the caramel industry, and he had over 1,400 employees. Now, this is my favorite part, and this is where I get goosebumps, is that he built a town and a recreational park before he actually figured out the recipe for milk chocolate. These stories are so inspirational, and I encourage you as entrepreneurs and leaders and people just to go really understand the magic of those times. And now it's a call to action to you. It is time for you to step up and be an innovator. So let's talk about this new world that we're living in. Many of the speakers have brought it up. You need to relaunch your business and embrace this new digital era. But let's talk about what has changed, because how can you relaunch or adjust if you're not quite sure what's changed? So first, let's talk about the consumers. We went into this pandemic a very, I guess you would call it transactional society. But we are merging a heart-centric society. Our services and the product offerings have to change to this new heart-centric consumer. Now, the virtual delivery of goods and services is out of control. We have seen amazing things turn into this virtual delivery method that we never even thought was possible. Customer experiences and their expectations have changed. What about our employees? How about the engagement and communication with our employees? There is absolutely a common thread in every one of the speakers, and we were talking about the greater reliance on technology. Remote working is a definite example of that. Grab a pen and paper. If you don't have one next to you, grab a pen and paper. So let's talk about how you can adjust your business to adapt to this amazing world. You need to embrace this digital evolution. Are you remessaging? Are you starting with the pain of your clients? Because when they get to your digital platforms, you shouldn't be talking about you. You should start with a question that relates to their pain. Every successful business is solving a problem. Whether it's a product or a service, it should solve a problem. And you need to solve that pain better than any of your competition. Transform, or are you transforming how you engage prospects, customers, employees, or even investors? You have to develop a digital marketing solution. I'd like you to also think of new ways to create and serve your clients. For example, textile companies, they shifted and started making masks. Restaurants provided deliveries, things of that nature. How can you adapt and change your business to this new consumer? I don't know about you, but I think it's going to be a whole lot easier to do all of that together than alone. And that's what I love about being part of the IAED, is the fact that I have had the opportunity within this organization to speak on panels like this, to engage with economists, entrepreneurs, C-suites, thought leaders, like-minded people, and more importantly than anything, is just having people that I'm morally aligned with. And then on top of it, having resources available, such as an international perspective. So many of you are hearing from leaders around the world. How powerful is that? How about sharing talents, problem solving, and having tangible resources to launch, build, and scale? I'd like to tell you about my personal journey. I get a little bit emotional because this world is so fragmented, and I had the opportunity to be in Korea. In 2020, we had the most fantastic conference, and we launched the IAED in February. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about my personal experience, and I hope that you will find and understand the drive that I have and many of the leaders on this call. It was absolutely, for my husband, Jamie, and I, life-changing. The ability and the freedom to speak of values and, speak of values that I personally have, that we have as a company, and share those values with other businesses and like-minded individuals worldwide. There was over 6,000 people under one roof, and we were sharing and just had that ability to work together globally. And this to me is so encouraging in a fragmented world where people seem so abandoned and siloed. The energy underneath this roof was intoxicating. It truly was. And the reason I'm so driven is I tasted it. I saw it. I felt the power of unity under one roof with all of this amazing activity at this conference. So what does this mean to me? The IAED honestly means to me hope. A hope that we can unite through an organization such as UPF, who is doing everything they can to show us that we are stronger together than divided. And seeing that progress within the organization. For those of you who may or may not have attended, just last month, the largest online conference worldwide. We're meeting every 2 weeks in the IAED to really shape up and embrace the world that we're living in and pull together thought leaders. And the evolution of what I've seen is just fantastic. I know that inside of the IAED, we will create an impact globally in our economy. But most importantly, it is possible not only to align in our families, our communities, but globally. So I wanted to give you an example of a resource that is inside of the IAED. And if you are a business leader, an economist, somebody who is out there impacting our world through economic development, this is an example of a resource that is a 67-page acceleration roadmap workbook. It also includes 12 one-hour business strategy sessions. It's valued at $6,500, but to our members here at the IAED, we want to pull these resources together, share these resources, because we know that if we stabilize our economies, the world can change. So I want to invite you to learn more about the IAED, spend more time with these amazing speakers and other people, and hopefully you listening to this call are going to feel a call to action, and maybe you have resources, experiences to share with the world. So I'd like you to check the chat right now, and there's going to be a link. And inside of that link, what you're going to find is, I'm going to escape from this real quick. And what you are going to find is the opportunity, a welcome opportunity to join our organization, learn more about the International Association for Peace and Economic Development. Learn today how you can make an impact and join us and find out what our mission, our vision is. What you're going to do is you're going to click on that link. Have you clicked on it? Come on, click on the link. We want to make sure you click on it and at least save it. And when you're going to have the opportunity to find out how you can receive early bird pricing on our membership to join our organization and help spread the word. Get connected to leaders like this. Help us build a strong economy from all of our collective knowledge and the knowledge that you're going to bring to the organization. And at the end of the day, elevate our circle of influence. So go ahead, click on that link, then click on the Learn More, and walk through this journey to see our mission, our vision, then read a little bit more in depth about who we are, and that's it. Then we want to hear about you. We invite you to share information about you. And that is the conclusion of everything that I had to say, other than the fact that I am honored and I am so looking forward to what the future holds, because together we are so strong. So Tom, I'd like to go ahead and turn this back over to you.
Boy, thank you so much, Audra. That was a home run. I think that was a grand slam. I think all bases were loaded and you hit it out of the park. What an outstanding presentation. My brother Mike had worked closely with Dr. and Mrs. Moon for decades, and he just texted me during your sharing and said that Mother Moon's, one of her favorite places to visit with family was Hershey Park in Pennsylvania. So thank you for bringing up chocolate, because that makes everybody happy. We had an outstanding panel. We've got only 3 minutes left, and I think we've got probably 20 or 30 questions. And I'm going to pick out one from one of our top UPF leaders in America, Roger Weatherall. And I'm going to ask the panel, I want you to just think of a key word, maybe a sentence or two. We'll do a quick lightning round with y'all. What role do you think that economics and business plays currently or should play in setting the morality and ethical standards of society? What's the role of business related to morality and ethical standards? And let's just go right down the lineup, starting with Mr. Fonseca. Just keep it brief, please. 20 seconds, 30 seconds.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. I think it's fundamental. I think it's the root of everything. If we want to change, we need to go to the basics, analyze what we're doing, and try to understand how to do it better. And as I told you, on learning is the first step, but then we need to move to a model with purpose, principles, and a new way of inclusive approaches, collaborative economic. So that's my view. That's the future I see for business.
Very well said. Very well said. Let's go to Mrs. Verdugo. What are your thoughts, ma'am? What's the role of business in terms of affecting society?
Gracias, Tomás, por la pregunta. Sí, efectivamente.
Thank you, Thomas, for your questions. Well, in my presentation, I wanted to share that today is values, the collaborative economy. So not only have the customers in the center or clients that buy from us, they're human beings and respect their values. Whatever is affecting a whole planet, it has a root in these values. And in the past, we were only thinking about money, about business. But actually, business is related to human beings, to humanity. And as leaders, as business leaders, we must transmit, we must share these values, even the corporations, the people that work for different businesses, and especially the consumers.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well said. Well said. Let's go to Aaron Monego. Aaron, what are your thoughts? The role of business to society.
Sure, Tom. I had mentioned at the conclusion of my my comments that the Holy Scripture asks us, what have you done with the talents given you? Did you hide them under a bushel barrel and use them for selfish purposes? Or did you take those talents and share them with the world and bring your light to the world? I think more than at any other time, at least in our modern history, we are at a crucible where good leadership with sound moral judgment and values is at a premium. And I think that is really the role of our leaders today. And certainly during this pandemic, we've seen it more than ever before.
Thank you. Thank you. Well said, Aaron. Thank you. And Mrs. Schiavo, you referred to the Mother of Peace. Tell us your thoughts on the role of business to affect society. I was so impressed. You mentioned Mother Moon's the mother of peace. And you said that human beings are spiritual beings in a physical realm. But tell us your heart, your thoughts, your final words. Just a few points.
I really think that with this sickness, we found the really true that we are spiritual. That's always spiritual. And we saw a lot of lives going, and that really we have to be spiritual to have something in the physical body. If you don't have faith, if you don't know God, you can go straight. You just
Fantastic.
die.
Thank
Okay?
you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful words and profound wisdom. Audra, you've got the final word here. Go ahead.
I think it's absolutely critical. I mean, we have to have a very strong moral compass, and we have to find something that we believe in and fight for it. And if we stabilize our economies, we will reduce crime. We will bring communities together. And the best way to do that is truly believe in what we're doing and be authentic, because authenticity is the easiest thing to follow, and it comes from moral fibers.
Thank you, Audra. Well said. Thank you to all of our panelists. It was an outstanding group, tremendous thought leadership. We will take this content, make it available to everybody. And I want to thank all of our participants, all of our viewers that came over, well over 1,000 people just in this, along with Facebook, and I'm sure we're in the tens of thousands in terms of a sphere of influence. So we invite all of you to get involved with IAED. Go to that chat bar, click the link, tell us how we can keep in touch with you. A final word of thanks to Dr. Hajj Moon for her incredible wisdom as a woman leader and a spiritual leader on a global level to launch this organization of IAED together with a similar network of parliamentarians, religious leaders, heads of state, academic leaders, media leaders, women's groups, first ladies, and youth. It's an ecosystem. It's a grand strategy that's driven by the same kind of tone and heart that all of our speakers represented. We can make an incredible difference in the Western Hemisphere. We can make history. We know all kinds of people at the top level, and there's no reason that you couldn't be part of it. And also your career, your life, your family, and your personal experience in making a difference can be so enhanced. Join us, work with us, let's lead together. And again, to our panelists, thank you. To Dr. Ki-Hun Kim, the chair of North America, and Reverend Kim of South America, and Dr. Chang-Shik Yang, and Dr. Dongmo Shin, and everyone else. We thank you, especially my good friend and colleague, Dr. Michael Jenkins. Your leadership is outstanding. We've got a fabulous team. It's a varsity team. We can overcome these issues because of the power of spiritually oriented human beings. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. God bless you all, and have a great day.